One more day, Alex said, his gaze locked onto Izzy's.
One more day.
She echoed, a sad smile playing on her lips. I wish we had more. A lifetime, maybe, Alex added softly. Izzy held his gaze, her eyes filled with unspoken turmoil.
Alex, if things were different, if I had met you first.
Alex shook his head, gently silencing her. Don't say that, Izzy. We have now. That's all that matters.
But what if now isn't enough?
She whispered. Alex brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch tender. Then we make it enough. Come with me. Leave everything behind. Just say the word and we'll disappear into the world together. A single tear slipped down Izzy's cheek.
It's not that simple.
Yes, it is, Alex insisted. Love is simple. It's everything else that makes it complicated. Izzy swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper.
Alex,
She hesitated, fear and longing battling within her. Alex searched her face, his voice steady. Say it, Izzy. If you feel it, say it. Izzy exhaled shakily, her voice so quiet it almost wasn't there.
I love you.
For a moment, the world ceased to exist. Alex leaned in, and they kissed deep, desperate, as if they could pour forever into a single moment. When she pulled away, her voice trembled.
Promise me something.
Anything.
Meet me tomorrow at the cafe by the river. No matter what, I'll be there.
Alex smiled through his own tears. I'll be waiting. They held each other in the fading night, unaware that fate had already decided otherwise. The next morning, Alex, checking his watch for the 10th time. She'll be here soon, she promised. He shifts in his seat, trying to push down the nagging unease that twists in his stomach. He recalls the warmth of Izzy's embrace from the night before, the way her smile had hidden 1,000 unsaid words. He remembers how, in that moment, everything had felt perfect. His heart races as the minutes pass. He watches as couples stroll along the riverbank, laughing and talking in the early morning light. They seem so normal. He feels detached from everything around him, as if he's in a dream, one he doesn't want to wake up from. Alex, muttering to himself, just one more day, right? One more day. He glances at his phone, checking for any messages, any sign that something has changed. But there's nothing. No missed calls. No texts. His stomach clenches tighter with each passing second. He remembers Izzy's tear-streaked face, the way she had kissed him like it was the last time she would ever be able to. She had promised she would be there. He had believed her. So why wasn't she? Alex, whispering to himself, "Where are you, Izzy?" The cafe's door opens, and Alex's heart skips a beat. A couple walks in, laughing, their hands intertwined. It's a simple, joyful moment, but to Alex, it feels like a cruel reminder of everything he's lost before he even had it. The seconds stretch into minutes, and the weight of the silence presses down on him. He glances at the river again, watching the water flow endlessly, a stark contrast to the stillness inside him. The cafe begins to fill with people, the hum of conversation growing louder. But to Alex, it's all muffled. His world has shrunk down to the empty chair in front of him. He remembers the promise she had made Dot, how she would be there. Alex had imagined the cafe the next morning, picturing her walking in, her face lighting up when she saw him, and the two of them picking up where they left off, as if the world didn't matter anymore. But now, all he feels is a deep, gnawing emptiness. The waiter approaches, his voice breaking Alex out of his thoughts. "Sir, can I get you anything else?" the waiter asked politely. Alex, forcing a smile, no, just waiting for someone. The waiter nods sympathetically and walks away, but Alex's gaze never wavers from the door. Time slips by, and with each passing minute, the hope he clings to begins to crack. Suddenly, a text message from an unknown number appears on his phone.
Alex, I'm sorry. I can't meet you today. I can't meet you ever. Please don't hate me. I'll always love you. Goodbye.
He had believed her. He had trusted her.
Alex, I'm sorry. I can't meet you today. I can't meet you ever.
Ever. The word rang in his mind, each syllable like a dagger in his chest. He couldn't make sense of it. Had she truly meant it? How could she, after everything they had shared? The love, the passion, the understanding, it had all felt so real. Had he been wrong about everything? He thought about their kiss, the way she had held him so tightly, like she never wanted to let go. How could it have been so fleeting? How could it have ended before it had even begun? The minutes stretched on. Another waiter approached his table, but Alex couldn't find the energy to respond. His voice had gone numb, his throat tight with the weight of his emotions. He looked up at the man, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "No, just waiting for someone," he said, his voice betraying the despair he was trying to hide. The waiter nodded politely, but Alex knew the words meant nothing. He looked around the cafe again, the faces blurring into a haze of strangers. The sunlight had shifted, casting long shadows across the room. Outside, the river sparkled under the morning light, a stark contrast to the storm of thoughts swirling in his head. He had always loved the river, the way the water seemed to flow endlessly, without concern for time. But now, it felt like the river was mocking him, carrying everything he had once believed in, his love for Izzy downstream, out of his reach. His mind raced, trying to piece together what had happened. He had told her everything the night before. He had poured his heart out to her, telling her he wanted to leave everything behind and be with her. Why wasn't she here? What had changed between then and now? He clutched the edge of his seat, fighting the urge to stand up and storm out of the cab. But where would he go? What could he do? He was trapped in this moment, unable to move forward or back. Alex's thoughts turned to the message she had sent.
Please don't hate me.
Hate her? How could he hate her? He didn't understand. He couldn't understand. All he could feel was a profound sense of loss, as if something had been ripped away from him without warning. The promise she had made,
No matter what, I'll be there.
no matter what, meant nothing now. Was that what she had truly wanted to say? Had she known this would happen? Had she been preparing herself to say goodbye before she had even left the night before? A couple entered the cafe, hand in hand, laughing together in the way couples did when they were still in the honeymoon phase. Alex watched them, his heart sinking as he saw them exchange glances, their smiles so innocent, so full of love. He wanted to look away, to ignore the painful reminder that what he and Izzy had was slipping through his fingers. But he couldn't. His gaze was fixed on them, like a moth to a flame. The door to the cafe opened again, and for a fleeting moment, Alex's heart leapt into his throat. A woman stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the soft glow of the early morning light. She was tall, with dark hair that fell in loose waves around her face. His pulse quickened, but then she stepped aside, and a man walked in behind her. Alex's heart sank as he realized she was just another stranger. He forced himself to breathe, trying to push away the bitter disappointment that swelled inside him. He looked down at his phone again, hoping for something, anything. A text. A call. An explanation. But there was nothing. The silence was unbearable. He couldn't stand it anymore. The waiting, the wondering. The fear that maybe this was it, that maybe Izzy had already made up her mind, and he was the one left in the past, clinging to a love that wasn't meant to be. He stood up abruptly, knocking his chair back in the process. The sound echoed in the small cafe, but no one seemed to notice. He needed to get out of there. To breathe. To think. His thoughts were like a whirlwind, spinning faster and faster, until they made no sense. He needed to move. He needed to escape the suffocating feeling of loss that was threatening to drown him. As he walked toward the door, he glanced back one final time. The empty chair. The spot where Izzy should have been sitting. The place where they were supposed to share their last day together. But she wasn't coming. And the weight of that realization hit him like a tidal wave, knocking the breath out of his lungs. He could feel his chest tightening, his throat constricting as the tears threatened to spill. Alex stepped outside into the cool morning air, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside him. The world was still the same. People walked by, oblivious to the anguish that was tearing him apart. The city around him seemed alive, but to him, it was just noise, a blur of sounds and faces that meant nothing. All he could think about was her. Izzy, the woman he had loved, the woman he thought he would spend his life with. She was gone, and he was left with nothing but memories. His mind replayed their last moments together, her soft smile, her gentle touch, the way she had whispered those 3 little words that had meant so much to him.
I love you.
Had she really meant it? Or had it just been a fleeting moment of passion, a lie to make him believe in something that could never be? He couldn't fathom the idea of her not loving him. But then why was she doing this? Why had she left without a word? He stumbled down the cobblestone path that led to the river, his feet heavy with the weight of his thoughts. He didn't know where he was going, only that he needed to be somewhere else. Somewhere where he wouldn't have to feel the crushing sense of abandonment that was suffocating him. As he walked, the tears finally came. They weren't the angry, bitter kind of tears. They were the kind of tears that came when a person realized they had lost everything they had ever wanted. The kind of tears that came when hope died, and all that was left was emptiness. He reached the river's edge, where the water flowed endlessly in front of him. The sun was higher now, casting a golden glow over the scene. But it didn't matter. He felt nothing. The promise she had made, "I'll be there," was gone. And with it, everything that had once felt real. All that was left was the echo of her words, the memory of her touch, and the hollow ache in his chest. Izzy was gone, and he would never see her again. What do you think would be revealed in Part 2? Do you think Alex would discover the mystery behind the unexpected text message? Do you think Alex would get to see Izzy again? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on what is coming next.